Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration.
Have you ever found yourself confused about the current state of the MCU or whatever the hell is happening with the DC universe?
Do you often have no idea what the hell the difference is between craft beer and that Bud Ice stuff at the gas station?
Well, then look no further.
We present to you Hops Geek News.
We're yet another geek and beer podcast in an already oversaturated market.
All right. We drink and we pretend we know things.
More often than not, we don't really know things, but we do talk some really great topics, and we most definitely can drink.
We'll deliver you news and then dive into any random topic you might have never knew you actually were passionate about.
With lots of fun facts about beer.
And from Marvel to DC and Star Wars, and to why Die Hard is most definitely a Christmas movie.
Which it is. Basically anything that our spouses are sick of hearing us talk about. Join us on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
New episodes weekly. Just search Hops News.
The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Alright everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. So tonight we're going to talk about something that has been coming up a lot recently. So if you listen to the show on a regular basis, you know that I'm not bashful about the fact that I have my opinions and I'm going to share them with people. And I actually am still wrapping my head around the fact that sometimes I have to stop and think there may be people who are listening to this show for the first time, or maybe just getting into things, or haven't been listening to some of the older episodes that are picking up right here. First off, if that's the case, welcome. Thanks. I hope you enjoy the show. But the numbers are still growing, and we're picking up a little bit of a traction and support. So just to get that out of the way, thank you to everybody for listening. I really do appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. And don't forget, go out there, support the other indie podcasts out there. Go to the website. I had to say it, podcast.com. And there is actually a page that's got a whole bunch of independent podcasts on there. Their links to their shows, their link trees, or whatever, however you can find their shows. I really recommend, if you're looking for something to listen to and you happen to listen to me, if you don't listen to one of the shows on that list, check them out. I think they're all shows I personally listen to. They're fantastic. Covers a wide breadth of genres, which there's stuff on there I never thought I'd be plugging and saying you should go check this out, but really that's shit you should go check out. So with that little shameless bit of self-promotion out of the way, let's get down to the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today. I have had this conversation in varying degrees of seriousness and in various formats with people I know, with people I don't know. And it's one of those things, particularly just being the kind of person I am, me being me. And the fact that I do this show and I speak my mind and I'm not pulling any punches, I'm not hiding behind any gimmicks or any personas. With me, what you hear is what you get. I'm not, anybody that knows me can tell you, I'm not any different in person than I am behind this microphone. If anything, I may be a little more crass, but generally, yes, I'm a loudmouth. Yes, I'm opinionated. Yes, I have a lot to say about a lot of different subjects. I am willing to have conversations. I'm willing to have discourse. I'm willing to talk to people about things that I don't necessarily see eye to eye with them about it. I don't take it personally if you don't have the same opinions I do. I'm more than willing to accept the fact that we can still respect each other and not agree on something. It's just the way it is. That's what adults are supposed to do. You don't need to get all to everything's not a personal attack. Not everything's a dig or an insult or a shot. And that's just one of those things. That's the way I feel. That's the way I live. And I don't understand people who do differently. I mean, I do understand that there are people who do differently, but I don't understand the logic behind it. I don't understand how you can let yourself get so just fucked up by someone else not believing the same stuff you do, by how people walk around justifying this arrogant belief that they have that everyone should see things the way they do, because obviously somehow they must be superior or something. I really don't get it personally. I mean, I think I'm better than a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but it's not just some inherent rightness. It's more I take the time to research and think things through before I make up my mind about things. I take the time to analyze the material available. I try not to jump to rash conclusions about anything. I try to approach things in a logical and mindful manner instead of just finding something that echoes what I want to believe and saying that's the truth, because that's not the way it works. Until you look at a problem from all sides, you are biased. You are only plugging one side of things. You're not being impartial. You're not being practical. You're not being factual. You're being judgmental and emotional and petty and stupid. And frankly, that kind of shit is counterproductive as far as I'm concerned. And I've had conversations with people, whether it's in person, face-to-face, people that I know personally in the real world that know I'm doing this show, and I've had this conversation with people online that I've never met, but I consider acquaintances, if not friends. Some people I interact with more than I interact with people I'm actually related to. I do have a group of people online that I interact with pretty much every day. I think all of us have that to some degree, especially with the way the world's gone off the rails thanks to the Rona. But ultimately, the thing I keep coming back to is people keep saying, well, aren't you worried about what's going to happen? You're saying this stuff in a public format. You're saying this, you're saying that. I'm not saying anything that is something I have a problem standing behind. I speak my mind. I speak my truth. I speak what I have to say. That doesn't change because I'm talking into a microphone right now. That doesn't change because I have this potential anonymity, which the way I've approached things, I really don't. It's all out there. I am who I am, and this is what it is. And no, I'm not worried about people coming and trying to cancel me. I'm not worried about somebody getting butthurt and going out of their way to try and get even with me, because at the end of the day, I'm not producing slander or libel. I'm not saying things that are in any way inflammatory or derogatory or generally mean that are anything that is an actionable stance. It may be unpopular. You may not like what I have to say. You may not agree with all my beliefs. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinions, just like I am, just like everyone is. And I'm not afraid of cancel culture. I mean, it's a horrible, stupid, shitty thing, and the fact that it's gotten the traction it has is really alarming to me, because that is heading down a dangerous path. Cancel culture is the same mindset that had women that didn't agree with the church's teaching being hung for being witches. It's the kind of shit that has had groups and people isolated and separated and put on blast, for lack of a better way of putting it. And throughout history, it has been used to marginalize and treat people like shit. And I'm not going to feed into that. I'm not going to go along with it, because the only reason this kind of shit has any power and gains any traction is because people go along with it. You want to sit down, you want to knuckle under and say, I can't say this, or I can't feel this, or I can't believe this. And that's your choice. If you're afraid of the consequences, I get it. If you're not willing to put it out there and you don't want to say something because you're afraid of offending somebody, because you're afraid that the wrong person's going to hear it, take it out of context, and it's going to just fuck your life up. I get it. I understand that mindset. That's a real concern for some people. I can't in good conscience go along with that, though. It goes against everything I believe. And if I've gotten to anything in my path that has led me to this point in my life. I do better when I'm being true to myself and when I'm being who I really am. It's better for me emotionally. It's better for me psychologically. It seems to work better with the world at large when I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody else, when I'm not trying to do something I'm not. And this is actually going somewhere, I promise you. The thing that I really want to go, I mean, this is a long preamble to getting to the point. If I was one of those shows that did a lot of sound effects and clips and all these other things, there'd be something popping in there. Get on with it! And yeah, I'm not. This is not the slapstick, well edited, all kinds of sound effects and special stuff. I mean, if I ever get the equipment, here's another shameless plug. Anybody out there wants to help me fund a Rodecaster so I can have a mixer and multiple mics, and when I get set up to have guests, I can have guests on the show, and I can have all kinds of zany, wacky sound effects and all sorts of other shit at the push of a button. Hey, I have a Buy Me a Coffee. I'll take all donations, and they will all go towards buying shit for the show. What I really was thinking about here, and the thing that I'm focused on, is ultimately this. We've got this whole cancel culture mentality. And I know I've talked about it before, but I want to look at it again. Not really fresh eyes, it's still my eyes, but I've been thinking about it, and I see, maybe it's age, maybe it's wisdom, maybe it's the fact that the people that are co-signing this shit, there's the ones that are controlling it, they're the ones aiming it, and this all starts to sound like I'm straying into tinfoil hat territory again. But the problem is when all these track records for all the conspiracies of starting to pan out and prove true is really maybe you got to start thinking about what you're considering ridiculous, outlandish conspiracies and what is just jamming your head in the fucking sand. And my concern is this. I see a large problem with this cancel culture bullshit coming from the fact that the young people that are hopping on board with this wholeheartedly and the middle-aged assholes that are encouraging it and feel like they're somehow being socially active by going along with this ignorant shit are extremely poorly educated in the simple fact of history. It's real easy to get on board with destroying somebody else when they don't agree with you. The problem is when you make these processes acceptable and when they become social norms and they are societally approved and this cancel culture, I don't agree with you, so I must end you bullshit, it's just a glorified twist on the same shit that these assholes are complaining about in the first place. It's a socially acceptable way of destroying somebody because you don't agree with them. They believe something you don't believe in, and so you feel the need not only to take away their livelihood and generally destroy their lives because they said something you don't agree with or they did something you don't agree with, and you feel self-righteous and you feel good and you get the warm and fuzzies thinking you actually accomplished something. The problem is societal acceptance of this approach and these techniques generates the potential for all of that shit to be turned back on you. And by and wide, when it happens, and it does happen a lot, none of this shit is new. The fact that they don't really teach accurate history in school in this country, and they do that deliberately. It's the same reason they took civics out of the educational system. People are easier to control when they are ignorant and emotional. It's just a fact. It's human nature. There are college well, there used to be, I don't know if they still exist, but there were courses that analyzed societal and behavioral actions. Now they have courses that analyze how you feel about which parts you were born with. And anybody that knows me, anybody that listens knows I don't give a shit how you feel about those things. And not in the ignorant way of like, oh, I don't acknowledge your feelings. Whatever you want to feel about your gender, your identity, which orientation you have, which way you're swinging, if you're sapiosexual, bisexual, pansexual, if you're attracted to lawn furniture, I don't give a shit. If you're a good person, I don't give a fuck about any of that other stuff. And I'm a lot happier for it. Realizing things that have no direct impact on my life are not worth getting bent out of shape is probably one of the best things I ever did for myself. It allowed me to simply be happy with simple things. I don't get bent out of shape about shit that has no impact on my life, and I'm much better off for it. I'm not afraid of cancel culture because I don't go around looking to cancel anybody else. I understand the loaded potential in that mentality. I understand how easy it is to fall into the idea of they don't agree with us, we must be destroyed, because that's exactly what cancel culture is. It's not some new way of thinking. It's not some radical approach to life. It's the same old bullshit wrapped up in a different paper. That's all it is. And I'm just flat out refusing to deal with it. I'm not going along with it. I'm not getting on board that fucking donkey cart. It's not happening. And realistically, if you're hearing this, if you're hearing my words, really stop and think about it. Take a look at it and realize how easily that axis, that pivot can swing. That what's being aimed at right now as who's in control and who's setting the terms about what it is okay to cancel and what we're going to end people for. The people that are controlling that can decide they're aiming you at something else real easy like, and you may all of a sudden find yourself in the crosshairs. And just remember how easily and how willing you were to pull that trigger on somebody else. And bear in mind, when it happens to you, that's just karma. You've got nothing to complain about. If you're guilty of participating in that shit, then when you have it done to you, you are not meriting any sympathy. So, that's my 2 bits on the cancel culture horse shit and why I'm not participating. I refuse to play. Nope. And with that being said, we are going to take a break to hear from my lovely sponsor, Anchor. I know if you've been listening to the show, you're getting sick of hearing that ad. I cringe every time I hear it. It was one of the first things I recorded. The audio quality is terrible, the mixing is terrible, and frankly, it's just tedious. But it hasn't run its course yet. I'm running it until they stop paying me for it, at which point we'll be back in a couple minutes and we'll button up the show. All right, so if you're still here after that, thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for hearing.
I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
All that, and thank you for sticking around. That's one of those things. I've actually started looking at some metrics, and it's not surprising to me, but at the same time, it's still kind of a bummer that a lot of the listens apparently drop off at about the halfway mark. So apparently 15, 20 minutes is about all I'm good for, and then I get irritating, or I get repetitive, or people just lose interest, or they just decide not to come back after the break. So thanks for sticking around. You're one of the good ones. For the second little segment here, and I am looking at restructuring things and making it segments so I can do shorter burst type things, and it just for ease of operation, plus possibly keeping your attention a little better instead of hearing me bitch about the same thing for 45 minutes at a crack. So for the second segment here, I just wanted to talk real briefly about things that we're starting to get back to normal. Things are starting to open back up. Things are starting to move forward. And there were some things that we started doing really well in the course of this pandemic when it came to supporting each other, helping each other out, buying things from craft stores online, from websites, from SD stores, from different marketplaces. Once things start getting back to normal, we need to stay with that. We need to stick with that. Yes, big box stores and online sales have made record profits in the last year. because of the pandemic, because people weren't allowed to go places. People weren't allowed to go do things. And we're finally getting taken off of timeout. We're finally starting to be allowed to go back. We're finally allowed to have indoor dining again. We're finally allowed. And realistically, as much as I'm aware of social constructs that needed to be held and things we needed to do to try and maintain public health and public safety, a lot of this shit has been government overreach. And it was done just because they could. And as fast as they were to snatch up these things, to take the control, to take our lives out of our hands, and tell us they were doing it for our own good, and as fast as they were to give up all that power, you watch how long it's going to take them to relinquish whatever they decide to relinquish. There's no guarantees they're going to give it back. This is why, when it comes to individual rights, civil liberties, all these other things, I have a hard and fast stance of fuck you. I don't agree with handing these people more power because they have proven time and again that they are unworthy of it. They're not worthy of the public trust. They have all betrayed their oaths of office. Technical definition, I would say 90% of them are probably really guilty of treason by a technical definition, if not by the spirit of what was intended by the founders of this country. When we are allowed to go back out, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, I will say it even more down the line. As long as I'm sitting behind this microphone rallying about common sense and use your fucking heads, shop local, support small businesses, support art, support things that make this world a better place, support things that enrich your minds, talk to your kids, hug your kids, interact with your kids. Especially if you're still working from home, if you still have that extra time in your day, don't act like they're an inconvenience when they want to spend some time with you. You only get so much. Time is something you will never get more of. All the money in the world won't buy you one more second of time. Iron Man said it. How fucking wrong can it be? Seriously. Hug your kids. Hug your spouse. Hug your significant other. Hug your pets. Hug whatever you feel some deep emotional connection with. If you're in love with the park bench, go hug your park bench and then spend the rest of the day picking splinters out of your arms. But show some appreciation towards life. Live your life. Stop living in fear. Stop living in hate. Stop embracing all this horse shit that causes us to be rotten to each other. I am an angry, mean-ass, cruel individual when I'm pushed to the point of losing my temper. I get there real slow, but when I do, and I'm much happier for having tried to let that shit go. If you get me mad at this point in time, you really earned it, and whatever I do to you as a result of that, you deserve that shit. So, be good to each other. Be kind. Be considerate. I feel like I'm talking in circles, and I keep coming back to these things because they're common sense. We shouldn't have to be told these things. We should be decent. We should want to be decent to each other. We should want to support each other. And for the love of Pete, if you see something in an online forum and you're getting those keyboard muscles and you're starting to feel all tough and all extra special because you're going to say whatever you're going to say, how about instead you don't? Just shut the fuck up. It doesn't take any effort not to shit on somebody else's thing. It's one thing if you see somebody being ignorant and stupid. If somebody's out there trying to work a side hustle in a social media group that's like neighborhood groups or whatever, your subdivision has a page dedicated to shit going on in the subdivision, and somebody's there trying to sell their like driveway salting services or whatever. You don't want the driveway salting services. You don't get the driveway salting services. And you move on. You keep scrolling. Keep rolling the damn mouse. There's no need to take the time out of your day to stop and pause and go, well, it's going to be in the 30s and 40s this week. You don't need to be out icing your driveway. Save your money, people. Dude, shut the fuck up. Somebody else is out there trying to earn some money, trying to help supplement their situation. You don't want to use the service they're offering. Don't use the service they're offering. You don't need to go out there shitting in somebody else's cornflakes because you don't agree with it. Just shut the fuck up. Really. Just mind your business. Move along. Be quiet. Somebody says something you don't agree with, and it's not some egregious slight on somebody else. They're not attacking some personal friend of yours. They're not saying something outrageously stupid. They're just trying to do something to better their own situation, something to get by, and they're being forthright and honest. And God forbid they're actually offering to do some fucking work. Just shut up. I mean, seriously, these people are so goddamn irritating. Is it that hard just to keep your pie hole shut or keep your fingers off the keyboard because somebody said something that you might not think needed to be said? So, realistically, who died and made you this great authority on what people should or shouldn't be selling or buying or doing? If it's somebody local trying to earn some money, let them be. You don't want to use the service. You don't want to buy the thing. You don't want to support whatever local person that is trying to get their hustle on. Then don't. But you don't need to be a dick about it. And for now, that's really what I have to say. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms. At I Had to Say It podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.